Blog Talk Radio.
Choices, decisions, frustrations, and pain. Knowing I'm going to forget her someday. While I still can, I'll challenge all my loved ones, every friend, to look inside their hearts and understand that I will love them. I will love them while I still can.
Well, hello, everyone, and welcome to Alzheimer's Speaks Radio. I'm your host and founder of Alzheimer's Speaks, Gary LeBlanc, and I'm thrilled that you can join us today. We have a really fascinating show today, and I can't wait to get to it. But like always, I need to explain to our listeners a little bit about Alzheimer's Speaks, because we are always getting new listeners from all over the world, and so I like people to have a base of who we are and what we do and why we're doing it. So Alzheimer's Speaks is an advocacy-based company providing multiple platforms to shift our dementia care culture from crisis to comfort around the world. We believe by joining forces in sharing knowledge and having these simple, everyday conversations about life with dementia, we can remove the fears and stigmas attached to memory loss and help those in the trenches regain their lives and live with purpose. Together, we feel we can help people understand the true needs of the disease. At our core, we believe collaboration is the key to really winning this battle. And I know collaboration has been huge with Alzheimer's Speaks, because we were honored with the recognition from ShareCare and Dr. Oz as being the #1 influencer online for Alzheimer's. And the only way that happened was from our listeners and our followers on the radio show and the blog and the dementia chats and all the other things that we do. So if you wouldn't mind liking the show, sharing it with your Facebook friends, you can even email this episode if you'd like. If you have a Twitter account, we'd love you to tweet this out. This is going to be a really important show today. We're talking about how hospitals can make a difference in terms of dementia care. And so this is one that we really need your help spreading the word about. The second half of the show, we're going to be talking about incontinence, and we've got really some cool products that we're going to be talking about that I didn't know existed in the format that they do. So I'm excited to have Wearever with us for the second half of the show. Now, with Alzheimer's Speaks, we are all about raising everybody's voice. So that means you too. We want to hear what you're thinking and what your questions are and your comments. And you can do that on the radio by utilizing your chat box, or you can always call in live and join the conversation at 714-364-4757. Again, that's 714-364-4757. And at the top of the hour here, I also like to remind people, if you are looking for an Alzheimer's Association anywhere in the world, we recommend that you go to Alzheimer's Disease International, which is located in London. But they are the organization of all the organizations. So you can find the one that's closest to you. And their website is www.alz.co.uk. And for those of you looking for a trial, you can go to www.alzheimersstudies, and there you will find some information on some new clinical trials that are out there. So let's go ahead and get going with this show. I'm going to go ahead and introduce our first two guests. Gary Joseph LeBlanc, many of you may be familiar with him. He is an author of Staying Afloat in the Sea of Forgetfulness and Managing Alzheimer's and Dementia Behaviors. He also was the co-author of While I Still Can. Gary does a weekly column called Common Sense Caregiving, which is also published in the Tampa Tribune and down in the Hernado Today. And he's also written up in many, many other publications. And if you're on Facebook, you've probably engaged with Gary in some way, shape, or form. His writing and his speaking events utilize his 3,000-plus days and nights of being a personal caregiver. And he's got wonderful ways of how to cope with the everyday challenges and emotional struggles of caring for somebody with memory impairment. So, Gary, how are you doing today?
I am doing great, and I want to thank you for having us on the show today. Thank you very much.
Well, good. I'm really, as you can tell, I'm very excited about this show, and I'm really passionate about the work that you're doing. So I'm thrilled to have you here. Let me go ahead and introduce Margaret, who is going to be Gary's sidekick here today at the show. And Margaret Doerr is the Chief Nursing Executive at Brooksville Regional Hospital, which is associated with the Health Management Associates in Florida. And they're located just less than an hour north of Tampa. So if someone's trying to figure out where exactly Brooksville Regional Hospital is, they're close to Tampa there. Margaret brings 21 years of nursing experience to her community, and she has received her master's degree in nursing from the Grand Canyon University in Phoenix, Arizona. She is also a patient advocate and sits on the Patient Advisory Council, which consists of residents in her community. As a hospital administrator, Margaret's vision is to assist with the implementation and process that will provide quality care and a safe environment for patients in her community. Margaret believes that the Dementia Initiative is so important because as healthcare workers, she knows that people need to feel safe and have quality care. And through the identification process and the education in their healthcare system and with their team, they'll be able to provide optimal care for patients with dementia, which is really quite exciting to see this pilot program launch. So how are you doing today, Margaret? Oops. You know what? I didn't turn her on. Here we go. How are you doing today, Margaret? I pushed the wrong button.
I'm doing great, Lori. Thank you for having me on your show.
Well, wonderful. I am very excited to have you here with us today. This topic is so important. I don't know how much you know about me, but I've been on this journey with my own mother for 30 years. She started in her mid-50s and is now 85 and has been in her end stages for 4. So over half of my life, I've been living with dementia, and this whole wristband project that we're going to be talking about today is just, I think, such a critical key piece in kind of turning that corner and tying a nice ribbon on things and working as a team. So I thank you for taking your time out today. Margaret's got the survey team at her hospital, so this is really a big thing for us to be pulling her away during that time. So we do appreciate that. Gary, I'm going to pose this first question to you. And if you can please share with our audience what started you off on this whole project. And maybe we should actually start with, how did you get involved with dementia? Let's start there first, actually.
Well, my journey started, I'd say, about 15 years ago with my dad. And throughout that stay, I'd say maybe 8 years ago, all of a sudden we experienced our first hospital stay. We did 3 of them throughout his journey, and I have to say, every single one turned into a complete nightmare. We all know that routine is one of the most important parts of taking care of someone with dementia. But the minute they're even on the road to the hospital, whether it's in your car or in an ambulance, that routine just went out the window. So what I've seen and what happened, and oh my goodness, the emails that I get from around the world, I mean, from New Zealand, you name it, I mean, it'll make your skin crawl. So I started this, 4 years ago working on this project, and then kept going on it with a lot of no's. And I got to say, if you get something that you really believe in, you just can't give up, and this is one of them.
Well, that's great. How did you come up with this vision for the wristbands? I mean, out of I know that you're very involved with the care of your dad and stuff, but out of all the things you could pick, where did this come from?
Well, one of the hospital stays, which I could probably say was the worst, when my dad actually had major surgery, and basically when he came out of surgery, he was in intensive care for 14 days. And he was tied to the bed. He had tubes sticking out everywhere. When they finally unincubated him so he could speak, he looked at me and he goes, "What happened?" I said, "Well, you had surgery." He's like, "Me or you?" I mean, this is how high the confusion level was with him. So I started talking to his doctor. I said, "Listen, nobody seems to know this man has dementia. I keep telling everybody." And it would last like 2 seconds, it seemed. And the next nurse would come in or whatever, and nobody could keep it straight that this person needed special care. And the doctor said, "We should maybe put a band on him." And I'm telling you, this was about 5 years ago, really, that this happened on it. And he goes, "That's a great idea. I'll talk to the board about it." Well, it never happened. So, I mean, this was the beginning start of it. You've got to be able to identify. You can't look at somebody with dementia straight in the face and say, "This person has dementia." It's just not visible. I mean, this is a different type of symptom that we're dealing with. So
well,
you have to identify them.
I think that that's a great point, because I still think that so many people think a person with dementia is somebody who's old and somebody who's in their end stages who can't communicate. And there's a lot of people that are diagnosed young, they're still driving, they're totally involved in their community. Many of them are still working. So there's many different levels and stages of this disease. Plus, it affects everybody so differently, I think, is one of the complications. But having an identification system will definitely help in this process. In terms of
one of the things that's so important about the wristband, the fact that it'll be on them the 24/7 while they're in the stay. I've had a lot of people say, "Why don't we just mark them on the side of their room or by their bed?" Symbol saying with dementia. But that's only good if they're in their room. When they're downstairs for testing, they need something to stay with them the whole 24 hours, 7, that they're there in that hospital stay. Mm-hmm. Because there's so many different departments that could be involved.
Now, is this going to be a different wristband than you get in the hospital, or will it just have the symbol? Maybe explain the wristband a little bit to people and how you envision this working.
We have gone through 3 different designs on this project on the wristband. And we all wanted purple. Purple, as everybody knows, is pretty much the national color for Alzheimer's. Well, it's also the national color for do not resuscitate. Mm-hmm. And so the purple was causing a problem. And we went through, like I said, different designs. At first we were going to just put a white band with alert advocate on it, letters. The problem with the letters, they might intercept the patients. There was a lot of HIPAA laws involved we had to be careful with. I mean, there was a lot of research involved in trying to get into where we were at. I was talking with Margaret in one of the last meetings we had, and she was saying that we really have to stay away from the purple. She showed me a blue band. She goes, "This is the only color available left in Florida." And I said to her, "Well, so that means this is going to be different colors in different states?" She goes, "Yeah, it probably will be." I'm like, "Well, this doesn't work." So I've been working with the first responders here in Hernando County with emergency management, and we've been using the Purple Angel logo that was developed by Norm Mack over in England, I'm sorry. And I showed that to Margaret. She's like, "Well, why don't we use this?" Best move ever. Because that new logo is at such a height, everything just fell in together at that point with the band. So the band is actually going to be the emission band with just a sticker that goes underneath the window with the Purple Angel on it.
Okay, great. That makes a whole lot of sense. Margaret, it sounded like you had something you wanted to add there.
Well, we use 2 patient identifiers, and we use the patient band to identify the patient. So that's part of our identification process. So with having the sticker there, when someone identifies the patient, they will be able to see that patient is, has some sort of dementia.
Mm-hmm. I just think I love the idea of the symbol being used by all, because I think it's a really cool logo. I don't think it's offensive, and it just shows the collaboration around the world. It shows, well, just kind of like, for handicap accessible, everything has to be universal. And, people aren't just locked in a cage, and we need to all start speaking the same language. And I think this does that really, really nicely. And so I'm very excited about this. Gary, how did you decide, out of all the hospitals that you could pick, how did you decide to go with Brooksville?
Well, I hit the pavement on this for many years, and had a lot of turn downs, a lot of dealing it. I got to say, I was doing a radio show. There's a local guy here called Bob Penrod. He's been doing local radio for 50 years, talk radio here. And I'm doing his show, and after the show, we're talking about this project that I've been working on here. He goes, I'm having problems getting to the administrator. He goes, I'll get you in. And he went with me. He set up a meeting at Brooksville Regional, and we met Patrick Maloney, who's the CEO of the hospital. And there was also another Margaret. Debbie Garnett was also the CEO of that meeting there. And her mother had just died of Alzheimer's. Patrick's mother is suffering. I couldn't have picked two better administrators to even meet with that actually understood what I was saying, and they understood it. So that's how it all started with Brooksville Regional. And that was May 1st of 2012 that I met with Patrick. So this project's been going on for a while there. But like I said, there was a lot of research. There was a lot to getting to this point. Bottom line is these hospitals, they're gigantic corporate machines, and it's a lot of policy to go through. But we're getting there. We've hit a lot of headway when we went through this. So
wonderful. Margaret, what are your thoughts on this wristband in terms of now? Have you actually implemented? Have you been? It sounded like you've gone through a few of these, so I'm assuming that it has been in process, or have you not kicked it off yet? Where exactly are you in the process?
We haven't kicked it off. Yeah, we haven't kicked it off just yet. We just got our stickers in and our magnets. We also have magnets that go on the patient's door frame, so that anybody entering the patient's room will know that patient has dementia. So housekeeping, food and nutrition services, that will give them the awareness that they need to know how to respond appropriately to that patient and to that family's needs. So we just got the magnets back, what was it, last week, Gary? And we are meeting again. We have a physician champion. Dr. Williams is a neurologist, and he just joined our group at our last meeting. So we will be meeting again here in another week or two, and then we'll put the educational piece out. So we want to make sure that our staff are educated appropriately, and that's where Jerry Fisher is going to come in. He's going to come to our hospital, to our facility, and he is going to help educate staff, because a lot of the staff members need that extra guidance to understand how appropriately to address this type of patient. So the educational piece is going to be the next step in our process.
Wonderful. Now, can you explain who Jerry is? I'm sorry. Is he the doctor, or is he somebody else?
Jerry Fisher is the educator from the Gulf Coast Alzheimer's Association.
Okay.
And Gloria Smith, who is the CEO over there, she's been behind this project from the beginning on this thing on it. She has graciously granted us Jerry to use for the training seminars. To me, I think this is the most important part of the whole project, is the training as we go through all this. The one thing I want you guys to understand, here in Florida, we're out of the Gulf Coast Alzheimer's Association chapter covers 17 counties all around Tampa Bay. The dementia, the Alzheimer's rate here is so high. There's only 8 other states in the United States that has more Alzheimer's patients than this one chapter. That's how huge it is in this area. I mean, we got a lot of retirees. I don't want to keep saying that Alzheimer's for the old people, but I mean, because there's so many people in their 50s and 40s now, we all know that's, being a big deal. But the training on this is going to be huge, and to do the pilot program in this part of the country, it's going to make it, we'll have more of a better assessment exactly what's happening, as how many people goes in the hospital, I believe.
Well, that makes a lot of sense. Now, when you do the training, are you going to, or have you considered doing anything for the public at all? as well. I'm just thinking with the hospital, you've got space and a lot of, I know here in Minnesota, they'll send out different health partners and stuff will send out different newsletters and things with educational programs. Are you going to try to educate the public at the same time at all?
I'll let Margaret answer that.
Sure. Yes, Lori, we are. Actually, we would like to offer classes for the community, for community awareness, through our case management department and Jerry Fisher, the community educator for the Alzheimer's Association. Classes will be provided to members of our community as well as surrounding communities. So we're hopeful that we could set up classes for the community to help them be aware of patients with dementia or community members with dementia and families of those patients as well. So that's going to be our next step. After we educate our staff, the next step in the process will be to educate the community.
Wonderful, because to me, I just think that that's such a critical piece is trying to get everybody on the same page. Speaking in terms of even some of the training that I do, I mean, I'm adamant about trying to get everybody using the same language in the same room, sharing content, and it gets a little tricky, but I don't think that we can truly give really good patient-centered care if we're not attempting to do that. And not that it'll be perfect, but I think it's a good place to start and to be able to offer that, even if there's things put in newsletters or postings, even in certain spots. I think it's wonderful. Do you have a time frame as far as number of hours that you're looking at? I know that there's a lot of people looking at trying to do training and become dementia friendly, and some people are saying an hour or two for employees, and others are saying 8 to 20, and with times and budgets and stuff, I know that you've got to consider all that. Have you figured out your curriculum yet with this, or?
I believe at our last meeting, and Gary, correct me if I'm wrong, but Jerry spoke about 2-hour increment classes for the staff, and then we would move on from there to see if they needed further education.
Yeah. Well, and
two and a half hours, and also the Alzheimer's Association is going to be offering educational credits for this training.
Yeah, CEUs will be offered as well.
Right.
Oh, that's great.
That's a big step on that too, to get people in there.
Yeah, and I think it's important too not to overwhelm people, because it can't be another job. It has to be part of the job, and like I said, balancing those budgets and stuff, I know it isn't easy. I think for me, one of the keys that I've seen in my experience is getting people to know that they're not going to have all the answers. None of us do when it comes to this disease, because every person reacts differently, and then every environment is different, and then depending on who they're interacting with, all of those things can change outcomes. And so it really is about learning to be more flexible and fluid, and trying different things to see how they work, and then sharing those experiences with others in the department and with family members, and just getting that communication going, because it just it would be nice if and it would be easier in a lot of ways if a person with dementia would just stay in this stage. They walk the line, they stay there, and you just know how they're going to react in every moment, but that's not the way it works, or that's not the way I've experienced it anyways in my 30 years. And so it really is about a toolkit, and just getting the conversation started alone, I think, is going to be massively, massively huge for you in terms of both employees and your patients and their families. I think that alone is going to be just a big laboratory of wonderful information that I think will probably surprise you in some ways.
We're going to be spreading a lot of awareness through this. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah. Gary, in terms of this project, how do you see it spreading to other hospitals? Are you really wanting to getting it off the ground here and as a model set up, or are you open to working with other hospitals to get other pilots started? What's your thought?
My goal is to have this. My goal is to get this into every hospital, but we need to start here. And I want to keep this universal. I mean, if we have different symbols and different training in different hospitals, it's just going to be a confusion. And so I really like to see the thing stay universal. So we're going to start with this program, this pilot program. The bottom line is there's no statistics really involved in this. You can contact any hospital in the United States right now, or maybe even further, and ask them how many dementia patients you have in the hospital right now, and they don't have an answer. So we're kind of starting at zero as far as statistics go. And that's one thing Jerry Fisher will be helping out a lot on that as far as getting any statistics going on this thing. At the end of this 6-month pilot program, we'll know. I mean, was there 1,000 patients with dementia that came in? Or was there 500? I mean, we don't know yet, but we're going to find out on it. And the thing about it, numbers, some people will only listen to numbers, politicians for one, But so we'll have some numbers involved in this and doing it. As far as getting into other hospitals, I know everybody's been asking me this. I mean, I can't tell you the amount of emails I get and phone calls on this. My suggestion is to contact the other local chapters of the Alzheimer's Association. I talked with Gloria Smith last week, the CEO of the Gulf Coast chapter, and she sent out a message. She contacted the National Alzheimer's Association, and they're supposed to be sending out email bulletin alert for all the other chapters. So somebody asks us about this program, they'll have an idea of what they're talking about. This is all going to take time. Even if you contact the hospital today, it could be a year before this is implemented. I mean, this is what I found out. So we got to start and be patient.
Be patient with our patients.
Yeah.
Well, and I think that's good. I personally, I wish that there was a go-to versus going to all the different Alzheimer's associations, just because with any big corporate structure, you might not get the right person until they really get it established. And so is it possible for, if they're not getting the answers, for them to reach out to you to try to coordinate and get things set up? And then,
I would love
maybe
that.
Okay.
That's the one way to keep this universal. I mean,
because
I really feel it's very important. And like the one thing about the logo, if we go back just for a second, the thing about the Purple Angel, it stands for all dementias, not just the Alzheimer's, the big A. It's for all dementias, Lewy body dementia, Parkinson dementia. I mean, this is something we got to consider. It's not just Alzheimer's. There's so many other types, vascular. I mean, it just goes on and on. So this is one of what I really love about that logo is that's what that stands for, is all the dementias. And this is important.
Now, Richard has a comment here, and I think it's a great one. And he says, great concept. If a hospital doesn't have this program, could an individual get a kit that they can have in case a loved one goes in the hospital? So is it possible, to get these bands without it even being in the hospital yet? Is that something that you've considered?
I want to keep this a hospital product. If everybody starts wearing these bands, that doesn't mean that that staff member knows what that thing even stands for. And you run into so many different staff, like she was saying, even the janitorial, volunteers. I mean, so I've been contacted. I can't believe how many people have tried to commercialize this. Say, how can I start selling the bands? This isn't about that. This is about the hospital implementing this device and keeping it that way. To me, I mean, this isn't a commercial opportunity. This is something to do the right thing that needs to be done for the dementia patients. So, if everybody had that logo on their wrist, doesn't mean somebody in that hospital can understand what it even stands for.
Yep.
But I think,
training,
Gary,
this is where we go back to the training on this.
Absolutely. But, Gary, if you expand on the community awareness and your thoughts on possibly having like a refrigerator magnet or something so that first responders can see, or they have an awareness that, somebody's loved one has dementia.
Yeah, the best thing we can do is spread out the logo and get everybody awareness of what this logo stands for on it. I mean, that's a big part of all this also on it. So
absolutely,
there's a lot of little things to this. I mean, this project just keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger, but this is good.
Well, in our memory cafe, wristbands have become a very big issue, and they have been investigating these things, and I have just been shocked at the types of wristbands that are out there that actually have a USB, a little flash drive in them, where they can have all their information, their medication, their contact people, all kinds of stuff. And contacting a company like that might not necessarily hurt. It would commercialize it, but from the other end, I think it could be a huge, huge help in terms of helping people identify that aren't in the hospital, but might run across some kind of emergency situation. But I was shocked at all the different types of things that are out there. It looks like we've got a caller on the line that wants to ask a question, so let me pull them in. We've got somebody from a 646 number. You're live on the air. If you can say your name, please.
It's Lisa Hirsch. Hi, Gary.
Well, Lisa.
Hi, Lori.
Hi, Lisa.
Margaret. I'm a big fan of Gary and Lori. So my mom has Alzheimer's. I'm listening to this, and I heard when Gary first told me about the idea, when I had the pleasure to meet him, it's amazing to me listening to the concept of everything that's been said, because I've listened to it several times and I've read it. It's amazing to me that that staff, the training, that there's such, I don't want to use the word ignorance, but unaware of. No one ever taught me or Gary or probably Lori how to interact with our parents having Alzheimer's or dementia or whatever it might be. So it's like every time you've talked about it in this radio, I've been like, oh my, it's amazing to me. And then there was one other thought with hearing about the bracelet and commercializing it and not wanting to, and I'm probably, besides my mom being my hero, I think the next one in line is Gary. My husband better watch out. but it's, I thought of like, Lori, when you were just talking about all these different bracelets and I thought about my thought was like, well, Medic Alert. Like I know that I was able to get my mother a bracelet through Medic Alert at no charge at the Alzheimer National. They're all very supportive of it. So when I heard, my husband works in a hospital also, and we know it's all about politics along with everything else, and is why if Alzheimer's Association was hooking up with Medic Alert, it's amazing to me if National won't want to really get involved with this as another step piece of the diseases. I mean, it's a statement I'm making. I'm not asking a question.
Right,
mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah, I think that there's so many needs on so many levels when it comes to identification, with this. And I think the hospital is a great place to start, and the clinics would be wonderful to engage in terms of even disseminating. I mean, I would love people to see them upon diagnosis get bracelets ordered, and not just for the person with dementia, but for their care partner too. Because what happens if something happens to the care partner? And that way it's not, oh, you've got the disease. It's just kind of good, safe living for both sides, evening it out. And again, the person with that's a care partner wouldn't, it would confuse it if they had the purple angel on there. But I think that there does need to be some responsibility and some thought in terms of safety issues. That really, again, those things aren't discussed a whole heck of a lot. And I'm sorry, there was another listener on the phone that wanted to make a comment, and they hung up. So if you want to call back in, I'll try to pull you back into the conversation here. Anything else that you wanted to add, Lisa? Okay, I'm going to go ahead and pull in this other caller then here quick. And we've got somebody from a 215 number. And if you can state your name, please, and tell us what your comment or question is.
Hi, Lori. My name's Michael Ellenbogen, and I also know Gary. And I got to tell you, I think what he's doing is the greatest idea. What I don't understand is why it's taking so long for any hospitals around the whole entire U.S. or the world, for that matter. I'm living with Alzheimer's, and I personally had experienced issues going into the hospital where, I mean, they just don't know how to deal with people with dementia, and there's such a lack of training to educate people. And I mean, I'm actually struggling with trying to get a hospital in my own area to do something similar to what Gary has done there. But I don't understand why we just don't do this naturally, and we have to do this what I would consider like this hodgepodge all over the place. You know, that it takes people like Gary and I to try to do things like this, rather than somebody to be able to take this on at a national platform to make this worldwide known, because it's needed. I mean, people are struggling when they go into hospitals and they don't know how to treat people with dementia.
Michael, we're starting on it. We're working on this. I mean, it's, you know, we talked over the phone a while back ago about this, and you're butting heads with the hospitals. It's very difficult to get these people to change. But times are changing. Things are turning in the right direction for dementia and Alzheimer's patients. There's a lot more awareness going on. So we're heading in the right direction, and hopefully this will go national. That's the goal.
But this should be driven by a national organization like the Alzheimer's Association, or even somebody bigger at the national health level, because, I mean, you know, this impacts so many people. And, I mean, you know, to be honest with you, until I went in the hospital, I was clueless of how bad things really were for somebody who's living with this disease. And
now that we have one hospital involved, things will be easier. I believe that. To get another national, I mean, this is a good start right here. This is a fantastic start. And getting this organization, this hospital with Margaret and this whole Brooksville Regional, this is huge, because now we can say, okay, they're doing it here. Let's get it going somewhere else on it. So you got to start somewhere. This is our starting point. So the Alzheimer's Association, they might be jumping in on this. So.
Yeah, I agree. I understand Michael's frustration, but with most things, it takes kind of a grassroots effort and some screaming and yelling and holding hands, marching together to change things.
I've been there.
You know, and so, you know, I don't think it's unusual. I think it's frustrating given the numbers and that people have seen these numbers coming and that it hasn't been addressed. But I try to focus on what I'm thankful for, and I'm so thankful for Brooksville to take this first step, because it's huge. It's absolutely massive. And like Gary said, once you have that first one, you know, in the tube, it's going to be a lot easier to get others to look at this. And, you know, I mean, I can see this being, you know, at conferences and people talking about this, and, I mean, all different types of things, because, you know, hospitals, like any other business, are trying to also improve their service. And, you know, anyways, I would think so. Am I correct in that one, Margaret?
Absolutely. You know, this is a huge opportunity. I mean, not only for our hospital, but for our community. Identification and awareness will definitely pave the way for how we provide safe, quality care to the patients with all stages of Alzheimer's, you know, not just advanced, not just beginning, but all stages. So, and, you know, Michael is right. It is very frustrating, you know, when people don't know how to respond or care for patients that have this disease. And, you know, I think the awareness is step number one, and education is step number two. And we always have to educate. Education is key to everything, and we have to reinforce and we have to remind not only healthcare workers but the community as well.
Yep. Good point. Michael, was there anything else that you wanted to add?
Nope, that's it. I just look forward to see one day that it's everywhere.
I agree. And I think with everybody's voice, and again, everyone listening, it's so critically important to push this podcast out to people and let them know the need for this. And, most people listening have been touched by this disease. Many that have also been touched but haven't shared it because of the stigma attached to this disease. So let people know what the needs are. Tweet it, like it, talk about it. Bring it up in conversations. And some of our listeners, maybe you work at a hospital or have connections there. Hook those people up with Gary or with Margaret or their Alzheimer's Association. But, don't be passive. It takes a village. And it takes all of us to work together to make these changes. And when we do that, we can implement things so much faster and be so much more powerful in the process. Well, I thank you for calling in, Michael, very much. If there's anybody else that wants to call in or make a comment, please feel free to continue to do that. We love to hear from you. Richard is saying if a hospital starts to have 20 patients or more wearing a bracelet, or they start seeing the sign in the doorway and the employees don't know what that means, they'll have employees asking questions of the leadership, and then they're going to have to act on this. But I think Margaret's point was, you want to have the education set up in front for them so that they do know, they do understand that it'll be just as important as a do not resuscitate sign. And maybe I'm interpreting that wrong, Margaret, but you tell me.
No, actually, it is all about awareness, and it's how we respond to the patients with dementia, and having a symbol or something there will alert anyone that interacts with that patient. So it's the same principle as a fall or a patient that's a DNR. The universal color for falls is yellow. If they have a yellow band on or yellow slippers, that patient's at risk. Well, now we have a symbol for dementia.
Wonderful. Now, I want to throw something out because Michael is still with us, and Michael is part of Dementia Chats, which is a webinar series that I do twice a month. And this is something that hospitals could easily use, too, in their training for staff, for family, etc. And what that is it's a platform where twice a month I interview people that have dementia. And they are so insightful. I learn something every single time on how to approach them and, how to change our delivery systems and styles and how to engage, how to pose a question, how to wait for an answer, comments on lighting, on noise, environment, approach. It's fascinating, and these are all archived, and families are using them to start conversations. People are using them for staff training. Doctors have even called and said, my God, I've never learned so much until listening to these. And so very simple conversations. We're not scripted. Nothing I do is scripted. It's all about having a normal conversation. But the insights are very, very powerful. And, again, that might be something that even just, and that's kind of what Alzheimer's Speaks is all about. Not to do a commercial here, but we have a lot of resources that are for free that people can go ahead and just tap into. Because one of the things that I have found, and Gary, you tell me if you're seeing this too, but once we raise that awareness and get people engaged, they want more information. And they want to know where to go. And so I think that's one of the things that's made Alzheimer's Speaks as popular as it is because it isn't perfect. We're talking about everyday things. Sometimes I get
tool a caregiver can have. That's I stress that constantly. But
yeah, and so we have different
people
types.
like you that actually have a spot where you can one spot is what people need. This is fantastic.
Yep. Yeah, the other thing that I would love to see is, I've developed this resource website for all different types of things. But one of the things, like you've said, you've had a hard time getting into the hospitals. I've had a really hard time getting hospitals and clinics wanting to be part of the resource directory. And it's like people don't know where you are that really specialize in this. They need help, finding this. And it's a 5-minute thing, if it even takes that long to fill out. And I don't quite understand that. I know there must be something with hospitals in terms of where they can be listed. Maybe they're like attorneys or something. I don't know. But I've just found that as a caregiver really, really frustrated, because on my own personal journey, it's like I don't know where to go. And there's got to be more resources than what I'm being told. And I feel as a consumer, I have the right to make that choice.
Can we bring in one more point about the project?
Yes, please.
When you come in for admission, if you already have a diagnosis of dementia, all right, you will automatically get the band put on you. But during the 6-month pilot program, they're going to be doing a mini cog. Margaret can explain a little bit better on this. We're doing a mini cog test for all the patients as part of the assessment when people come into the hospital. So the chances of us catching early diagnosis is huge at this. This is fantastic as far as I'm concerned on that. So basically, every patient it's not going to be like the mini mental exam. It's going to be a little smaller because the hospital's all acute care. Everything's fast. But the fact that we're going to give people the little mini cog test, that's just part of the project that I didn't even expect to come out of it. So
go ahead,
Margaret. The mini cog test will be included in the patient's initial assessment and ongoing assessment. And basically, the test is for recall and recollection. So in other words, if I were talking to you and I said, okay, Lori, remember these 3 words, cat, dog, mouse. And then we continued our conversation, and then probably a few minutes later, I'll say to you, Lori, do you remember the 3 words that we talked about? And see how you can recollect or recall those words. And then there's a score depending on how many words and how many you can recall. A score is given, and that will be tallied and will define whether or not there is a potential or if there is some dementia involved.
Okay. I have a question for you, Margaret, because I ran across a really cool test that I can't stop talking about because I've seen all the different kind of mini cogs, and I put it in the notes here, but it's called the let's see, I better get the correct name of it. The Reality Comprehension Clock Test. And Barbara Brock did this, and it's all research-based. It takes about 20 minutes. I actually went through the certification to do the test. Not that I wanted to do it, but I wanted to learn more about it. 4 hours of training to do this. I think it's $350 to be able to be certified to do it. But what I liked about this test that I have a tough time with the other tests with is that there's not the language barrier that sometimes can come into play, especially that we've gotten so multicultural and things, and just the way people have learned. And they've devised this test to really work all different parts of the brain, so they can tell by how someone draws this clock if they've had a stroke, if there's potential for incontinence, if there is maybe even for concussions. I mean, I'd like to see it in schools. It was one of the most incredible experiences I've ever been through in terms of going through this, analyzing it. And, you know, I was on a webinar where there was probably, 20 of us doing this test, and all for the first time, all charting it, and they have it so tightly done that it was so simple for us to do, and there's like a 1 to 2% range, but it's not going to affect the outcome of the test. And the other beautiful part about this test is it correlates the outcome with an age, and so it really helps families when you're discussing things with them. So let's say maybe there's an issue on driving, it'll correlate an age, and so you can pose to the question to the family: would you feel comfortable with your 9-year-old driving the car? And it just puts it in a whole different piece. And they're like, well, my God, no, I wouldn't. Right. Well, that's where your parent is at right now, and it's a really neat test that personally I would love to see incorporated into hospitals, clinics, and even schools, because it gives you a great baseline from differences. I don't know if that time frame would be too long, because again, I know everything is dollars and cents when it comes to this, but I'd be glad to get you the information on that.
Information would be great. I think the length of the test, the 20 minutes, is a little lengthy. We were looking more for something that wouldn't take but a few minutes and just identify potential risks, because we're really looking at the identification process. I do know a little bit about the RCCT. And, maybe once the patient is identified, an occupational therapist can then be triggered to go ahead and give this test. So this could be something that could be incorporated while the person's in the hospital, but to identify that dementia, that initial assessment, or the identifier would be probably the mini-cog would be more appropriate.
Okay,
but
and that's what I thought.
Great idea. I'm sorry?
Okay.
The number of patients that get first diagnosed at a hospital visit are huge. Most of these patients have been hiding it from their family, and, there's a lot of stuff going on. But when they end up in the hospital, maybe they can't hide so much still. So, many people get their first diagnosed just from a hospital visit. So, like Margaret says, and maybe that test can be adapted into afterwards after we notice the symbols on it. So.
Well, great. We've got another caller here. If you don't mind, I'd like to pull them in. We've got a caller from a 704 number. You're live and on the air. If you wouldn't mind sharing your name with us, please. 704, you're live on the air. Did you have a question or comment? Oh, didn't mean to scare you. They dropped off. Okay. They might have been just listening to the show. Sometimes that happens. So not a problem there at all. Well, I can't believe how fast this hour has gone. We've got about 10 minutes left, and I want to make sure that I give you all the time that you need, Gary. Are there some other points that you want to be able to cover? I think one of the things maybe that we haven't touched on is, how the heck is this going to help the caregivers and the family members? What's this system going to do for them?
I got to tell you, there was one hospital stay that I had with my dad that when my dad was discharged, they were more happier that I was leaving and not my dad. For the caregiver, you're pulling your hair out, stressed out. When somebody ends up in the hospital, something brought them in there. They're not there for the dementia, for the Alzheimer's or whatever it is. So that maybe that week or 2 weeks ahead of time at home, things have been getting worse and worse and worse. So that caregiver is pretty stressed out by the time that person's in the hospital. And the fact they're in the hospital, now there's a whole other worry of what's going on. One of the things we're working on this program is that this is going to implement a babysitter. I hate using that word, but a sitter for that person that has the wristband on them will be part of the product that they'll be available to them. It'll be a hospital staff member. Their job is nothing medical. They basically maybe hitting the nursing button. When the patient, I know with my dad, every time he closed his eyes and woke up, it was a whole new distress. And where was I? I'm not at home. And what building is this? So if somebody can just explain to them when they're there. A family member needs a break. Some respite when this is going on. But I got to say, one of the parts I worry about this is that it's also very important to have a family member there. With the history, the medical history and all that, the questions that are being asked, somebody has to verify these answers. They could ask, well, where were you born? The guy goes, Houston. Never been to Houston in his life. So are these answers true or are they not? And some of these answers, their life, they're vital. So, the sitter's a great part of this project. I just hope people don't take too much advantage of it because somebody still has to be there to verify everything.
Well, and how is that? Is that part of the hospital staffing then, Margaret, or how's that working? Because I could see that being a really expensive piece.
Yeah, it could become very expensive, but we utilize sitters now. For patients that are at high risk for falls or that have dementia identified through physicians. But this would be a process whereby we either use a staff member, a certified nursing assistant, or a sitter to stay with this patient for a period of time to give that family member some respite.
Now, I have never heard of this, so I find this really exciting. Is it something that you ever think could be a volunteer basis, or would you see too much liability in that?
Yeah, I think there's too much liability in that at that point. There has to be some kind of training associated with the person who is going to be sitting. So not only training in the sense of dementia, but training in the sense of, if the patient is eating and goes to swallow and starts to choke, what does that person do? And, using those basic BLS tools that we as healthcare workers utilize. So,
sure.
It would be a little difficult to get a volunteer to do that. Although if they're trained, that could be a possibility.
Yeah, I'm just thinking that I could see myself volunteering for something like that, just because I get the importance of it, and if I could help alleviate somebody else's angst, both from a family or not. So I think, what I'm seeing out here is that there are a lot of people that would love to be tapped to volunteer, but what they're looking for is something meaningful and how they can give back and use their talents. Or, will people be even roomed together? Is that something that is happening now? You have kind of your heart wings and things like that. Would there be a place where there's maybe two dementia patients or 4 dementia patients in a room? I don't know what size rooms you have, where maybe then you could have one sitter for a number of people or a couple of people. Would it work something like that?
Yes, absolutely. Our rooms, we do have semi-private rooms, but some of our rooms are also private. So, yes, we could challenge that, and we could put 2 patients with dementia together and then have a sitter in with them.
Okay.
I
think that sounds like a really fascinating idea. And again, another thing I'd love to see go through and pass on to other hospitals with that. Gary, anything else that you want to add at all?
No, I just got to say hats off to Brooksville Regional for taking on this project. This is groundbreaking.
Well, thank you.
Like I said, I butted heads. I really hit the dusty, windy pavement on this thing for 4 years. To get it to this point is it's a blessing, really.
Oh, you've got to be
and everywhere
so proud.
I went, everywhere I talked to, I was like, oh, this is a great idea. This needs to be done. But that would stop right there. To actually get this implemented is another step. That's just, so we're on the road here. We're going. We went from a dusty, winding road to jumping on the highway. Things are heading in the right direction.
Well, very, very neat. Gary, how can people get a hold of you? What's the best mode?
Through my website, commonsensecaregiving.com. There's a contact form. That's the best bet on it. And there's another page on that site about the wristband project. I keep it updated. I keep everything that's going on with our meetings and all that deal, and any new updates will be posted on there. On Facebook, I just started a brand new page for this project. It's Alzheimer's Dementia Hospital Wristband Project. You're welcome to go on that. I just started that Saturday night, and it's already climbing up with people that are joining onto that page. So, this is huge. I really cannot stress how many people have contacted me around the world on this, not just the United States. This is something that needs to be everywhere on it. And the horror stories, oh my goodness, it makes your skin crawl that I've heard from people that, never mind what I experienced. Some of this stuff is unbelievable what happened to these people in the hospital. So this is so well needed. It's I can't even stress how important this is.
Well, wonderful.
Absolutely.
Well, Gary, I appreciate all the work that you're doing. And Margaret, would you like to give any contact information or just have people go through Gary? What would be best?
If people could just go through Gary, they could definitely get my information through him.
Okay, well, sounds good. Well, please keep us posted. Do you have a launch date in mind when you're actually going to be rocking and rolling this thing out, or?
We're getting pretty close.
I think that we're in the month frame, or maybe a little bit longer than a month. But Yeah, we're coming to the end of this, and we're working on policies right now and things of that nature, because of course in the acute care setting you have to have a policy for any initiative. So we're working on that at this point, and on our side, and then just the education part is going to be the biggest part of this.
Yeah, and that should be within a month, I believe.
Absolutely.
Next month we should start the training. So.
Yep.
Well, wonderful.
Yeah,
Are you
we're getting close.
I have one question on training. Are you doing live, or are you going to do webinars so that they're accessible for staff to be able to do? I'm just thinking shift changes and things like that. Or
the Alzheimer's Association's agreed to come in and do sessions in the morning and sessions in the evenings, or afternoons and evenings. We're going to do double sessions on this. We're going to try to get all the staff in on this. I mean, I can't really. I got to thank the Alzheimer's Association a lot on this.
Absolutely.
I talked to other organizations and big organizations, and they literally turned me down on this. But the Alzheimer's Association realized what was going on here, and they're 100% behind us on the illness. At least the Gulf Coast chapter has been huge for this. And like I said, this 17-county area down here, the numbers are outstanding. I mean, it's unbelievable how high the numbers are here. So that's not a good thing, but it's a good place to start the project, you know.
Well, but it's a good thing to recognize, because you can't fix something if you haven't recognized the problem. So kudos to both of you. And again, if people want to, like and tweet this episode out, help raise awareness and get this project spread. It's greatly, greatly needed. And again, I thank you both so much for your time today. And
very welcome.
Would love to have you back and hear more as things progress. Okay?
Thank you, Lori.
Okay, bye now.
Bye-bye.
Before I introduce our next guest, I just want to highlight a couple of things. For those of you that weren't able to listen to the last radio show, it might be something of interest for you. We were talking about flag football with the Blondes versus Brunettes, which is there's several of these teams throughout the U.S. that are young ladies raising money for both awareness and for research for the Alzheimer's Association. We also had on that episode Terry Woodford, who has put together heartbeat lullabies, which I have to admit I thought was kind of strange. But, man, it really helps calm somebody down and put them to sleep. These are used not only for people with dementia, but people who are just stressed and kind of over-triggered. They're being used in the hospitals for infant care. They are being used on heart surgery. They are being used to help slow down the abuse of kids, because parents typically are triggered, or adults are triggered by crying, and if the kids are sleeping, there's less likelihood of them being abused. And the government is actually using these for people struggling with post-traumatic stress. So with both the shows, I think we're really interesting on that, so it's something you might want to check out. Our next show will be next Tuesday, and Linda Burnhams is an author. She's going to be with us along with Steve Hume, who is living with AD, and that's going to be a fascinating discussion there. Our last Dementia Chats was canceled just due to my traveling schedule, but our next session will be on the 9th at 3 p.m. Eastern Time. Again, all of the Dementia Chats webinars are archived, so you can always go back and check those out. And then there were just a couple of blog articles that I thought people might be interested in that I wanted to highlight. One was Understanding Dementia, which is a free online course that is being provided by the Tasmania University. There's an article on digital dementia, which is quite interesting. Who does it affect, and what exactly is it? I already talked about the heartbeat lullabies, and then Jiminy Wicket. There's a couple of articles on Jiminy Wicket, which is an adaptive croquet game, which is spreading all around the world by Jim Creasy, which is really cool to see as well. So with no further ado, let me go ahead and roll into our second half of the show and introduce our next guest. Mandy Harrell is the brand manager for Wearever and its parent company, Prime Life Fibers. Mandy graduated with a degree in fashion merchandising and a minor in international business. She began her career as a buyer for women's apparel and healthcare catalog in 2004, which is where she was first introduced to Prime Life Fibers, and she really gained an appreciation for the growing need for incontinence products for the aging demographic. In 2010, Mandy was hired as brand manager overseeing the Wearever brand and product line. So welcome, Mandy. How are you doing today?
Great. Thank you, Lori. How are you doing today?
Good. I'm excited to have you with us today because I was not aware of your product line. And you were kind enough to send me out some samples, and I have to tell you, I'm pretty dang impressed with these. So I'm really excited to talk about Wearever and what your products have to offer. So can you talk to people a little bit about what kind of products that you actually have to offer people?
Absolutely. Wearever is a brand. We offer comfortable, quality, affordable, and stylish apparel solutions for anyone with urinary incontinence. They are made to look and feel like regular underwear. They have a built-in absorbent pad that is comparable to a disposable diaper as far as absorbency and protection. But what makes them different is really the way that they are more like regular underwear. We want to give our consumers the feeling that they aren't, even though they're having these changes with their body, that they're actually not having to almost revert back in their lifestyle. And, going to disposable diapers can make you feel not as dignified as you would prefer. So it was really important for us to design something that would, help the changing of yourself and help keep you dignified.
Well, and I was really amazed because they are, you have lacy ones, you have cotton ones, and, a lot of times I will see the big bulkiness, of incontinence items, and these really aren't. They're almost as thin as like a little mini pad, and somebody really would not know that they're there. And you've got them, placed. It's bigger and broader for the absorbency, but really, you can't, to have these on, you can't tell. And I think that is so cool. Plus, there's nothing to throw out. You buy these, you wash them, and, you're off and cooking. So from a standpoint, from an economical standpoint, there's got to be a pretty big savings here versus buying disposables. Am I correct in that?
Absolutely. The average user saves about $500 a year when using our reusable garments as opposed to purchasing disposables. As far as it also being economical, it's also very environmentally friendly. If you are a user using adult diapers and disposable products, you're basically throwing away about 1,100 to 1,500 adult diapers per person per year, whereas if you use the Wearever reusable garments, you wash them, you wear them, you save about $500 a year, which is, great for our economy, great for everyone's pockets, especially, during these hard economical times. And the garments are antimicrobial treated, so they're, very health friendly as far as there is no bacteria that grows within our absorbent pad. The thinness that you were referring to, that was something that our founder, Bob Deeren, and I have worked really, really hard on making sure that, the wearer wasn't feeling like they had on big, bulky garments. The absorbent pad is it's a 3-layer pad, and you would think, 3 layers sounds very, bulky. What we did is we resourced the thinnest polyester top layer lining that we could find, and it basically wicks the moisture away from the wearer's body, and it lets the liquid through into a non-woven center, and that's really the part that does the most work in this garment. It's a thin, almost cotton ball-like, you would think, if I was explaining it the best that I could. It's sort of like a cotton ball that we've treated with antimicrobial agents. And what those agents do is they eliminate odor-causing bacteria, and it makes it to where you can wash and wear these garments. And then there's a 3rd layer that is very, very, very thin film. It's a urethane bottom layer that's waterproof, and it prevents the liquid from leaking through. It's a great little concept that Bob and I have worked really hard on bringing this to the consumer so that they had, again, another dignified solution as opposed to adult diapers.
Yeah, I did put the link on the page if anybody wants to click through this. And, I mean, you can see, I mean, they're very attractive. They look very normal, in terms of what's there. Now, are there different types depending on the severity of somebody's incontinence? Are there different types of padding within these, or are they all the same?
No, there are different options that you can choose from. It's estimated that 30 million people within the U.S. suffer with some sort of incontinence, a certain level, whether they're light or moderate or severely incontinent. What we have done is we have modified our pad to have different absorbency levels depending on the basic needs of the wearer. We offer some items that come in both. The same exact item comes in 2 different absorbencies. One, our super absorbency is great for people when they are going out and maybe they're going to be shopping or they're going out to a family function and they're going to be away from a restroom for quite a bit of time. Then you would want to use our super absorbency garments. They're also great for overnight wear. A lot of times people will not wake up in the middle of the night even though they need to use the restroom. They just unfortunately don't wake up. So this is a great solution for that as well. Some of our lesser absorbing are more for maybe women who have just birthed a child or don't have very severe incontinence.
Okay. Yeah, and I'm looking, you also have a place for people to be able to review these, and I mean the ratings are quite nice, 4 and 5 out of 5 stars, and one person says, I wear the lace ones all the time, and I was shocked. I mean, I was really shocked to see the look and the feel of these, and I just thought, what a great way, because I would always see people struggling, and I hear it with my friends, of having to run to the store and get things, and it's kind of degrading for the person having the problem that they have to get an adult diaper, and this really avoids that issue altogether. And I think just makes it so much more comfortable. And again, you're not filling up the landfills with this, and you're not spending extra money. Granted, the underwear is going to cost a little bit more up front than a regular set, but in the long run, you're saving both in the adult diapers and probably clothing as well, with that. So I think that's a really cool thing to be able to do. And I wish something like this would have been available for my mom, or it probably was, and I didn't know about it. But, when she was starting to have incontinence problems, the only alternative was the big diaper. And she fought that tooth and nail. Even though she had dementia, she knew she did not want to wear a diaper. And there were times where, she slipped and she fell in her own urine. And it could have been really, really hazardous, and we were lucky with that. But you hear of people slipping and breaking hips or cracking open heads, and it doesn't have to be that way. And this is really a very nice alternative, a very dignified alternative to be able to give people. Now, I'm just looking on your site here, and it looks like you have bedding too, and I actually have to say I haven't been on here. So you've got incontinence padding for the bed, it looks like. Is that correct?
Absolutely. We have some mattress pads that have the exact same technology as our underwear. Basically, it's always great to have additional protection. They're also treated with our antimicrobial fibers. They are wash and wear as well. You can throw them right on your bed. We have a couple of different styles. One of my favorites that I love to talk to people about is our quilted plaid. We call it a furniture cover. It can be used on your furniture. It can be used on your bed. We try to make it look something like a throw you would have in your living room. So if you have it sitting on maybe the favorite chair that you sit in during the day or things like that, it's very discreet, and people wouldn't think twice to think about, that's there for medical reasons. We wanted them to feel like they could be comfortable and still have that protection. We're just trying to expand our line into as many different products that we can do so that people that do suffer with urinary incontinence don't have to be nervous about, having to run to the restroom really quickly or, having that emotional stress that results from having urinary incontinence. We want to make their lives as normal as possible. We want them to still feel like they can go out and be active and, just not miss a beat within their day.
Yeah. Well, and I noticed that the quilted pad, too. I thought, well, that is really cool because it doesn't look institutional at all, in some ways. And I don't know if you've ever given any thought, but, I could even see something with a hunting pattern on it for a guy so it would, be more comfortable for them. Or if you've thought about doing these in different colors or a floral pattern. I don't know, how hot of products these are for people to know about, but I think it's really important from the dignity standpoint. And I see that you have bibs, it looks like, and some people will call them clothing protectors, and they don't like the use of the word bib, but it is what it is. And whatever you feel comfortable calling it, I think is it. Does that have the same type of protection as the bedding and the incontinence underwear?
The bibs do not. They do not have an absorbency. Well, they're made of terry, which has a natural absorbency, but they are not treated with our antimicrobial. That's more or less something we carry on our website as, a function that people who are caretakers will be looking for bed pads. They will be looking for bibs. They will be looking for incontinence underwear, things that just make their daily lives for the person that they're taking care of, or maybe themselves there as well. We offer a couple of different product lines, one notably, which is Buster Brown, which I'm sure a lot of listeners are very familiar, maybe haven't heard that name in many, many years. But we have a line of Buster Brown socks that is one of our largest selling items, aside from our incontinence products, that do really well. They're 100% cotton socks, and they're really great for people who have diabetes, and they have seamless toe seam, so that it won't, cause any abrasions on your toes, which is, very sensitive spot on the body for people with diabetes. We're all about, making a healthy lifestyle for people as they age. And we just, we always welcome our consumers' feedback. That's my favorite thing, being the brand manager. We put products out there in the market, and I always love to hear, yes, I love this, but maybe you could improve here, or, I love this item so much, and I'd love to see it in this color, or any feedback from our consumers, whether it be good or bad or just suggestions. That is my favorite part of the business, is hearing, what's going to make your life a little bit better, what's going to make things less stressful on yourself, and that's really what Wearever prides themselves on, is just, being there for the consumer. They are our main goal.
Well, and it's interesting because looking at the socks, I've always just seen kind of those, I don't know, I think they used to call them TED socks, but the high kind of nylon tight socks, for circulation. And these are, have the short socks, and, they talk about, and I never really knew what the purpose of them, was, but it talks about no elastic or synthetics. They're seamless, and, they cushion to improve comfort, reduce binding, and eliminate those skin irritations. And I know for my mom, that really became an issue because she wasn't mobile anymore. So she had a lot of swelling and a lot of issues with her feet and her legs, even though she wasn't diabetic. And, it was just, as a family member, it was even hard to look at them sometimes because they would just get so huge because she would retain water and they, put her on something to pull it off, but they would just, blow up, and you would just think, oh my gosh, that just has to hurt. So I think anything to be able to provide comfort and reduce the irritation and, potential for skin breakdown is, again, another great product that you have. So I was so glad to run into you guys. and find these. Like I said, I love my job because I'm always finding new things out there, or new ways to deliver them, and companies with different philosophies and things. I think it's real important. Getting back to the incontinence, for the women, is there a particular style that you see is more popular than not, or does it kind of depend on what the needs are of the individual?
Well, it's very funny you say that, because we do have one style that supersedes all of the styles by far. However, it is your regular just comfort cotton incontinence panty. It is our moderate absorbing panty, and it has elastic legs, elastic waist, it's full coverage, and that's your everyday pair of underwear from what the feedback we get back from our consumers. We also have our super absorbency, which is very similar. It's a full coverage brief with the elastic legs and the elastic waist. However, the absorbent pad holds up to about 12 ounces, so we call it our super absorbency, whereas our moderates are about 5 to 6 ounces. And then we have some, a little bit more fun styles. We have a all-over lace and nylon incontinence panty. Some of our consumers have wrote back that's their, Saturday night special and things like that.
That's
and then
very
some
pretty.
of them do wear them all day long, all the time. We wanted to give our consumers as many options as we possibly could, and we're always expanding our line. We're offering higher cuts. We will be offering higher cuts for something that's a little bit younger styling. We predominantly had started with an older demographic as our company was getting off the ground, because that was, the demographic that needed it the most. And now that we're getting our name out there and people are learning about our brand, we have people that are caretakers that are saying, I need this, I need these types of products. Maybe I want something a little bit more stylish. And that's where Wearever is growing, and that's where we love our consumer feedback, because we not only have the end user going to our website, we also have the caretaker who may not be the end user, and maybe they're in a different age demographic, and so they see these products and they're like, this is a great idea for everyone, not just the older demographic, and that's where we see Wearever moving towards.
Yeah. Well, and you even have one that's a shaper for women. So, I mean, that's something you would never, ever think in a zillion years, you would have with an incontinence product. But, people still are conscious about those things. And so I just think that it shows how progressive your company really is in terms of looking at the needs of people. And more, people are having these. Now, I see when I went to look at size, typically there's one that goes into, significantly larger sizes, but it's not for all, the whole variety. Are you seeing a need just because we are, becoming a larger society to expand sizes at all? I mean, I just see all the nursing homes that are starting to do more and more, with people, that are the larger sizes and need more help in multiple ways. And I don't know if you're seeing that impact in your industry, but I when I go visit the nursing homes, I'm seeing that a lot more now. But I don't know if incontinence is one of their issues or not. My guess is it probably could be just as easily as with anybody else.
Absolutely, we do see that. We have started expanding our line based on customer feedback. Incontinence is, it doesn't matter your size, your age, or your ethnicity, anything. It affects anyone basically, and we started offering our women's sizing up to size 8X a couple of years back, and we've seen that the demand has increased significantly when people find out that it is available. And that's again where Wearever wants to. We need to offer these products to our consumers because a lot of times they don't know what's out there. They don't know they have this option. And when we were only running limited sizing, we had consumers calling and saying, we're not all stick figures, we're not all one shape or size, which we didn't think that. But we did expand our line up to size 8X on some styles. And as we grow, as our business grows, we will be expanding more styles into the larger size ranges, again, just to accommodate the needs of our consumers.
Okay. Have you, has Wearever ever considered going into stores and not, or maybe you already are and I don't know it, or is it just online for access for your product?
Right now, we are predominantly online and in mail order catalogs. We are working with a couple of different major drug chains right now to get our products on the shelves. We started with web, with the internet and mail order because we find that the consumer who is purchasing these products has such a hard time walking into a grocery store or a drug chain. They don't want to sit there and turn the box over and read about it because they're embarrassed. Once people become familiar with the Wearever brand and what products we offer, it'll be a lot easier for them to walk into these stores and say, okay, that's exactly what I need. I don't want to spend a lot of time on the incontinence aisle. And we are progressing towards that. But again, we just came out with a new line of retail packaging. It is absolutely gorgeous. If I do say so myself, you would never know that it was an incontinence product. We have very active individuals on the cartons. That the men's product, he's out there playing golf, and the women's product, she's out there gardening. And it was really important for us to make the consumer feel that if they do pick this product up off the shelf and they're walking through a grocery store, they have it in their cart, that the average person in a grocery store will not look at that packaging and say, oh, they have an incontinence product in there. We wanted to make it, again, as discreet as possible, but yet still serve the purpose of getting these products on the shelves and out there in the consumer, so that they are aware of it. That's our biggest challenge, is that no one's really that aware, or they hadn't been as aware that this product line exists. And we're really launching a great PR campaign to try and make our consumers understand, hey guys, we're here. We're, you're looking for a better alternative, and here we are. So
yeah, I just think the products. I've got the samples here, and I just touch them and feel them, and I'm just shocked. Because I really did not know that there was this type of alternative, and it's pretty cool. So I definitely want to help you spread the word. I just think these would be so great in hospital settings, and even for doctors to know about, to be able to talk with families. I mean, you think of what hospitals could save in terms of utilizing this type of product, not only in cost, but like you said, from the whole eco situation in landfills and things, it would be enormous. Plus, it would be a great way to educate the public that this type of product exists.
Absolutely, absolutely. Now, I do want to point out that we do not recommend this product line to people who are not mobile, or if they're completely unable to help themselves a little bit, if they're bedridden and things like that. Unfortunately, we don't feel that our products will be that beneficial, because they are, you have to pull them on. We don't want anyone or a caretaker to hurt themselves or the wearer trying to get these garments on. And we've found that people that maybe are less mobile have a little bit more difficult time with this, and disposable products are still their better option. But the majority of our consumers and the majority of people out there that do suffer from incontinence are still very active, and that's who we've made this product line for.
Have you ever considered making a different type of product that is for somebody who's not mobile, for hospitals, in terms of, I'm just thinking still, just to be able to reduce the cost and get them out of the landfills. To me, I just think that that's something that the hospitals would seriously consider taking a look at. And maybe it isn't an actual pullover underwear, type situation or pull up. Maybe it's designed totally different, but to meet with hospital staff and say what would work the best, I think could be really, really interesting. And even if it had, Velcro tabs on the side, but was washable, would be interesting.
It would. We have made some small production runs for a few different companies that were washable or reusable, and they had snaps, instead of Velcro, or, Velcro would work just as well. It just was this particular company wanted snaps.
Well, and that gets snaggy, though, too, so I can see where it would be better not
to have the snaps. But, we also see that we have spoken to some hospitals, and we get a little bit of resistance because they don't want to have to keep up with which belongs to, which patient and things like that. So it's just easier for them to throw away. But, we are trying to change that mentality in this industry and lead people towards the more economical and environmentally friendly reusable products.
Mm-hmm. Well, wonderful. Well, is there anything that we haven't touched base on about your company that you would like to share?
Really just that Wearever has a very large assortment of different sizes and colors and patterns and different fabrications. So we pretty much have something to fit the need of everyone that may suffer from either light to moderate to severe incontinence. We do hope that everyone can check out our website at www.weareverincontinence.com. We love to hear feedback from our consumers. I read every single review personally, and I take everyone very serious. And if we hear of anything that we could improve on, you better believe that's my job as brand manager, is to go out there and make these the best that we can make them for you. So again, I love hearing your feedback. We are currently offering a special promotion on our website that anyone that goes onto the website and orders a six-pack of underwear, they can mix and match styles and things like that. We will offer them free shipping. There is no coupon code or anything like that required. It'll just be discounted at checkout. We also have, if you are not as familiar with the internet, or if you prefer to speak to someone, you will call our company. You will get a live person that you will speak to, and we are here to assist you at any time. Our phone number is 866-379-8198. And if you need help with sizing or choosing the right absorbency level, that's what we're here for. And please give us a call, and we'll do our best to help you out.
Well, wonderful. Well, I really thank you for your time, Mandy. It was very interesting, and I promise I will get these samples into someone's hands who can use these. I won't let them go to waste, and I will definitely be talking to people about your products, because I think it's a huge need and a great service that you're providing to people. So thank you again so much for all you're doing with your company. And again, you can just go to www.wearever, and that's WEAREVERUS.com, and they're also on Facebook as well. So have a great week. The 4th of July is coming up here, so I hope you enjoy that. And I'm going to go ahead and close out the show then, okay?
Thank you, Lori.
Thanks, Mandy. Have a great week. Bye-bye.
You too. Bye.
In closing up the show, again, I just want to give you a reminder that we will be having dementia chats on the 9th with Harry and Michael. That's our webinar series, which is free. We start at 3 p.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. Central, and that would be noon Pacific time. And so feel free to join us for that. Our next radio show is going to be on the 9th, and that's going to be with Linda Burhans, and she is an author. We're also going to talk with Steve Humes, who has Alzheimer's disease. And Linda's book is called Good Night and God Bless. On the 16th, we're going to have a real special show. We are going to be talking with a group from the UK who has early onset dementia. And that's actually going to be an evening program. And then on the 23rd, we are going to dedicate the full 2-hour program to driving. And so we've got all kinds of experts. And so I hope that you can be part of that show, because I think it will definitely be worth your while. In the meantime, again, if you're looking for an Alzheimer's Association in your area, please go to Alzheimer's Disease International. That's www.alz.co.uk, and they can assist you in finding an Alzheimer's Association close to your neck of the woods, which is so critically important. If you're a person with dementia likes music, again, I always highly recommend Choral Health, and their Music First program is just a fabulous, fabulous mode to be able to have access to music in an instant that can calm them down, wake them up, get them in a good mood, all different types of things. And then for clinical trial, check out alzheimersstudies.com. And I've also been getting some requests lately from people saying, they've got Lewy body dementia. Is there an organization out there for them? And there is. There is the Lewy Body Dementia Association, which is located in Georgia. But you can go to their website, and it's just www.lbda for Lewy Body Dementia Association.org, and that's lbda.org. You're going to be hearing us talk a little bit more in the future about the Purple Angel and becoming more dementia aware, and we'll be expanding on that over the shows and through the blog and through the webinar platforms as well. So I hope you all have just an absolutely fabulous 4th of July weekend, and we will catch you next week. Take care now. Bye.
Hey everybody, Jared Sebestier, host of Retire Repurposed. This podcast is dedicated to help people transition into fulfilling and purposeful retirements. Retirement is a big life change. In fact, the two most dangerous years of a person's life are the year they were born and the year they retire. Few people could just flip the switch from working a career 30 or 40 plus years, retiring on Friday without methodical steps to living what we call a repurposed retirement. To listen now, search Retire Repurposed on your favorite podcast platform, Senior Resource, or Life Audio.